In this video, we will compare Linux Mint 22.1 CR and MX Linux 23.6 Libretto, two popular midweight desktop distributions. While both are renowned for stability and ease of use, they target slightly different audiences and have unique design philosophies. By the end of this comparison, you will understand their distinguished features, including desktop environments, package management, performance, and hardware support, so you can decide which best fits your needs. Let's first start with the release overview and upstream basis. Linux Mint 22.1 CR. It was released on January 16, 2025 and is built atop Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. As an LTS-based distribution, it will receive security fixes and updates until July 2029. MX Linux 23.6 Libretto arrived on April 13, 2025, refreshing the MX23 series with Debian 12.10 bookworm as its foundation. MX Linux 23.6 benefits from Debian's stability and will track Debian's long-term support schedule, which is Debian 12's LTS ends around December 2026. In essence, Mint inherits Ubuntu's large software ecosystem and is relatively frequent kernel or hardware enablement, which is SW cadence, whereas MX stands on Debian-stable's rock-solid base, incorporating point releases, refreshes to provide incremental improvements. Now, desktop environments and user experience. Linux Mint 22.1, which has Cinnamon, Xfce, and Matte desktop environment. Cinnamon 6.4 is Mint's flagship desktop environment in 22.1. This release features a new default Cinnamon theme with rounder corners, increased contrast or padding, and a floating aesthetic for panel applets, though Mint retains the familiar mint white dark theme out of the box. Now, clutter-based dialogues improve Wayland compatibility and ensure system-wide prompts, example, shutdown or keyring unlock, adopt a consistent style, making them more visible than traditional GTK pop-ups. A return of nightlight, which is color temperature adjustment, in both X11 and the experimental Wayland session, allows you to reduce blue light at sunset or schedule it manually. Power mode switching via Power Profiles daemon integrates directly into the Power Applet and settings, enabling easy toggling between performance, balanced, or power-saving modes. Mint also offers Xfce 4.18 or 4.20 and Matte 1.26 as alternatives. These are lighter than Cinnamon and share many of the same underlying improvements, for example APT modernization, software updates. Now, MX Linux 23.6, which has Xfce, KDE Plasma, and Fluxbox as desktop environments. The default Xfce 4.20 desktop in MX 23.6 emphasizes simplicity and low resource usage. MX Linux customizes Xfce to highlight MX tools in the main menu for easy access to utilities like MX Snapshot, MX Boot Repair, and now a new UEFI manager. There is also a KDE Plasma 5.27.5 edition, although Plasma 5.27.5 dates back to May 2023 and is considered somewhat outdated, and a Fluxbox edition catering to users who want an even lighter footprint or a highly minimalist window manager experience. MX theming is more utilitarian. It provides a clean, straightforward Xfce layout by default, with panel configuration, a whisker-style menu, and access to MX Dash, a simplified launcher. Now, comparison point. Cinnamon, which is Linux Mint, offers a more polished and modern interface out of the box, particularly appealing to users transitioning from Windows or macOS. MX Linux Xfce, while less flashy, is leaner and still highly customizable if you prefer to tinker with settings manually. Now, performance and resource usage. Linux Mint 22.1 Cinnamon requires at least 2 GB RAM and a dual-core processor just to run acceptably. Though for a smooth experience, 4 GB or more is recommended. Cinnamon's effects, animations, and modern theming can push RAM usage towards 800 MB to 1 GB at ideal, depending on background services. The Xfce and matte flavors of Mint are lighter, hovering around 400 MB to 600 MB at ideal, but still not as lean as MX default. MX Linux 23.6 Xfce sits around 350 MB to 450 MB at ideal on fresh installs, thanks largely to Debian's minimalism and MX's focus on resource efficiency. The Fluxbox edition can dip below 200 MB at idle, making it ideal for truly low-end hardware or older systems. MX Advanced Hardware Support, which is AHS variant, with LiquidX 6.14 kernel, may consume a bit more RAM, which is around like a 500 MB at ideal, but delivers enhanced performance on modern CPUs and GPUs. Now, comparison point. If you plan to run on very limited hardware, for example under 2 GB RAM, single-core CPU, MX Fluxbox or Xfce editions will outperform Mint Cinnamon. However, if you have moderate, modern machine which is like a 4 GB plus RAM, Cinnamon's polish and features may justify the slightly higher resource footprint. Now, package management and software availability. Linux Mint 22.1 APT modernization. Mint revamped its APT stack by replacing APT daemon with APT kit, which is APT URL, and GDB with Captain, and removed Synaptic in favor of dedicated tools. These changes are mostly under the hood, ensuring smoother, future-proof package management without altering the user experience dramatically. Software Manager. Linux Mint's Software Manager filters out unverified Flatpak listings by default and provides a toggle to show them. Unverified entries appear at the bottom of search results with prominent warnings. Flatpak integration. Mint continues to integrate Flatpak repositories, often FlatHub, alongside Ubuntu's Deb repositories, giving access to a broad spectrum of both stable and cutting-edge applications. Snaps. By default, Mint blocks Snapcraft packages. Users who need Snap support must install and enable Snapd manually. Now, MX Linux 23.6 APT from Debian-stable. MX relies on Debian's APT alongside its own MX repositories. This means packages tend to be older but are rigorously tested. MX Package Installer provides a GUI for installing codecs, firmware, and other common packages stripped from Debian's main repos. MX Tools. A set of utilities, example MX UEFI Manager, MX Live USB Maker, MX Boot Repair, simplifies system administration tasks. MX UI for managing UEFI settings in new 23.6. Backports and AHS. For users who need newer kernels or Mesa stacks, MX AHS variant or Debian backports can be enabled. However, unlike Mint's HWE, these are opt-in and requires manual configuration. Now, comparison point. Mint's software stack offers more bleeding-edge options via Ubuntu PPAs, Flatpaks, and optionally snaps. Ideal if you want newer versions of apps. MX approaches prioritizes rock-solid stability. While some software may be older, it's less likely to break. MX tools help bridge mirror gaps by offering convenient one-click installs for otherwise tricky packages. Now, hardware support and kernels. Linux Mint 22.1 ships with the Linux 6.8 kernel via Ubuntu 24.04 LTS and allows users to opt into the Ubuntu SWE stack for newer kernels, for example 6.10, 6.12, etc. shortly after release. Mint also defaults to Pipewire for improved audio performance and Bluetooth compatibility. Out of the box, Bluetooth handling is robust thanks to Pipewire and Blumen integration. And Mint's SWE updates help support cutting-edge hardware, for example new Wi-Fi cards and GPUs, within months of Ubuntu's upstream releases. MX Linux 23.6 uses Linux 6.1.133 for its standard edition, Debian's LTS maintained kernel. For very new hardware, MX offers an AHS edition featuring Linux 6.14 LiquorX, which provides better support for recent CPUs and GPUs. MX UEFI Manager, introduced in 23.6, simplifies tasks such as enabling or disabling secure boot, creating UEFI entries, and troubleshooting boot configurations. Features that typically require command line expertise on Debian. Now, comparison point. If you need the latest hardware support for new laptops, cutting-edge GPUs, Mint's SWE path is more straightforward. MX AHS also provides newer kernels but requires you to select the AHS ISO or enable backports manually. For most mainstream hardware, both distros offer ample support. Now, community support and documentation. Linux Mint has a large global community, extensive forums, and official documentation as one of the most widely used desktop Linux distributions. It enjoys frequent tutorials, blog posts, and third-party videos, making it especially beginner-friendly. MX Linux boasts an active but smaller community, primarily focused on Debian enthusiasts. MX forums and IRC channel are well maintained, and its developers produce detailed blog posts for each point release. For example, 23.6 changelog, security notes, etc. Now, comparison point. If you foresee relying heavily on community support or third-party tutorials, Linux Mint's ubiquity can be advantageous. MX Linux community is enthusiastic and supportive, but you might find fewer video tutorials or blog posts compared to Mint. Now, security updates and life cycle. Linux Mint 22.1, which is based on Ubuntu 24.04, is an LTS with official support until July 2029. Mint provides monthly security patches for its own packages, and Ubuntu's repositories handle the rest. MX Linux 23.6 will follow Debian's 12th LTS schedule, supporting security updates until December 2026. MX point releases, which is 23.1, 23.2, 23.6, bundle incremental Debian package updates and MX specific fixes. Now, comparison point. For a longer support window, Mint 22.1 has the edge, which is like a 2029 versus 2026. Both distributions receive timely security patches, but Mint's alignment with Ubuntu's LTS cycle generally ensures more frequent upstream update. Now, package versions and software repositories. Linux Mint 22.1 benefits from Ubuntu 24.04's relatively recent package versions, Many mainstream applications like LibreOffice, Firefox, No Maps are up to date, and you can add PPAs or use Flatpak for cutting-edge releases. MX Linux 23.6 adheres to Debian 12.10 conservative release model. Core packages, for example LibreOffice 7.4.2, Xfce 4.20, are stable but may lag upstream by several months. For newer software, you must enable Debian backports or MX test repository. Comparison point. If having very recent application versions is critical, Mint is more convenient out of the box. MX trades bleeding edge for proven stability. Enabling backports or AHS is possible, but requires manual steps. Now, customization and theming. Linux Mint Xfce it just works ethos with polished theming. Cinnamon's user interface settings, which is layout, panel positioning, applet support, allow non-technical users to customize the desktop extensively without editing configuration files. MX Linux Xfce setup is also configurable, but customization often involves opening setting managers, then window manager tweaks, editing files in config or Xfce4, or using tune or custom actions. MX tools provide some guided options, for example MX boot options or MX local, but theming is inherently more minimal. Comparison point. For a plug-and-play customization experience, drag-and-drop applets, theme switchers, Mint Cinnamon is more accessible. MX Xfce rewards users who are comfortable diving into settings and configuration files. Now, target use cases and audience. First, beginners and everyday desktops. Linux Mint 22.1 Cinnamon is ideal for newcomers migrating from Windows or macOS. It offers a familiar desktop layout, panel at the bottom, start menu style launchers, pre-installed multimedia codecs, easy update management, and a strong hardware support, all with minimal manual configuration. MX Linux 23.6 Xfce is still user-friendly, but it pursues a bit more technical comfort. Example, enabling AHS kernels or tweaking UEFI settings. It's well suited for users who want a Debian-based system without the need to compile or hunt for packages, while keeping resource consumption low. Older or resource-constrained hardware. MX Fluxbox or Xfce editions shine on older laptops, netbooks, or PCs with 2 GB RAM. The lower ideal footprint means you can run lightweight browsers, office suites, or programming tools without significant lag. While Mint Xfce is lighter than Cinnamon, it generally still uses more RAM than MX Xfce variant due to Ubuntu's additional background services. Now, stable long-term deployments. MX Linux is often chosen by sysadmins or enthusiasts setting up stable workstations or servers that require minimal maintenance over time. Its reliance on Debian-stable point releases, for example 23.6, means fewer unexpected package changes. Mint LTS also suits long-term deployments, but its more frequent HWE kernels and Ubuntu PPAs introduce slightly more churn, acceptable for desktop users who want newer hardware support. Now, customization and tweaking. Mint allows users to customize Cinnamon through GUI tools, applets, and themes without touching configuration files. MX provides MX tools for common tasks and encourages manual tweaking of Xfce or Fluxbox settings. Ideal if you enjoy fine-tuning every detail. Now finally, conclusion and recommendation. Choose Linux Mint 22.1 CR if you are a desktop Linux newcomer seeking a polished, modern experience and want straightforward multimedia support, Flatpak integration, and access to Ubuntu's vast ecosystem, and prefer a WI, SI, WIG customization workflow via Cinnamon's settings, and value a longer LTS lifecycle until July 2029 with more frequent hardware enablement. Choose MX Linux 23.6 Libretto if you need a lean, reliable system for older hardware or limited resources. If you require Debian-stable's unparalleled stability and are comfortable enabling backports or AHS for newer kernels. And appreciate MX Suite for MX tools, for example, UEFI Manager, Snapshot Creator for system administration without resorting to terminal commands. And if you want a midweight desktop that just works with minimal bloat, while still having access to Debian's large repository of packages. Ultimately, both distributions excel in their respective niches. Linux Mint leans towards a modern, user-centric design with rapid updates and extensive community resources. MX Linux emphasizes rock-solid Debian's reliability, lightweight operations, and a collection of unique system tools. By matching your hardware constraints and personal preferences with the distinctions outlined here, you can confidently select the distro that aligns with your workflow and computing environment. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace out.